The phone call came at 7 in the morning, Marcus's voice cracking through the speaker. "Ma, what's happening?" The rent check bounced. Our landlord is threatening eviction. Serena and I are freaking out here. I stood in my kitchen, coffee cup steady in my hand, feeling something I never expected to feel toward my own son. Absolute calm. No guilt, no panic. Just the quiet satisfaction of watching consequences finally catch up to choices. But to understand how I got here, you need to hear what happened 3 nights ago when my daughter-in-law Serena said something at my dining table that changed everything between us forever. I'm 71 years old. My name is Patricia. For the past 12 years, since my husband Thomas died from a heart attack, I've been the invisible wallet behind my son's entire existence. Every desire, every impulse purchase, every so-called emergency, all of it came from my retirement fund while they live like royalty and I live like a peasant in my own home. But 3 nights ago, during what was supposed to be a pleasant family dinner, Serena leaned toward her sister visiting from Miami and said something she thought I couldn't hear from the kitchen. That old lady exists just to keep our lifestyle going. Without her money, we'd actually have to budget like normal people. My son Marcus, my only child, the boy I raised alone after his father died, didn't defend me. He laughed. Actually laughed, like she'd told the most hilarious joke he'd ever heard. I was bringing out dessert, a homemade apple pie I'd spent 2 hours making. My hands froze on the serving tray. The laughter from that dining room felt like glass shards in my chest. In that moment, standing in the doorway between my kitchen and dining room, I finally saw the truth I'd been avoiding for over a decade. To them, I wasn't a mother. I wasn't family. I was a service, an ATM that baked pies and smiled while being drained dry. Let me take you back so you understand how deep this goes. 12 years of financing their dreams while my own life gathered dust. When Marcus lost his sales job right after the wedding, I paid their rent for 11 months straight. $900 monthly, pulled from my Social Security and the small pension Thomas left me. Marcus barely looked for work during that time. Why would he? Mom's check arrived like clockwork. When Serena decided she needed a complete wardrobe overhaul because her office required professional attire, that was $4,000 on my credit card. Designer blouses, tailored pants, leather handbags. I was still wearing clothes from 15 years ago, but Serena needed to look successful. Their anniversary trip to Cancun? $6,000. They posted photos every day, umbrella drinks on the beach, sunset dinners, couples massages. They never once asked if I wanted to come. When I mentioned I'd never seen the ocean, Marcus patted my hand and said, "Maybe next time, Ma." This is really a couples thing, you know? I knew. I always knew. I was good enough to fund the romance, but not to witness it. The car situation 4 months ago should have been my wake-up call. Serena announced their sedan was too old and unreliable. "Patricia, if we're serious about starting a family, we need something safer," she said with those wide, pleading eyes. $18,000 for a down payment. $18,000 that represented 3 years of careful saving. I handed it over because it was for potential grandchildren, for family, for people I loved who clearly didn't love me back the same way. You are hearing revenge stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you want to hear more stories like this and have any kind of attachment with this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Share your stories too. Your voice matters. Your story matters too. After hearing Serena's words 3 nights ago, after watching Marcus laugh at my expense, I couldn't sleep. Not from heartbreak. I'd moved past that. I couldn't sleep because suddenly everything was crystal clear, like someone had wiped fog off a mirror I'd been staring at for years. At 2 in the morning, I got up and went to my home office. I turned on my computer and started making changes I should have made a decade ago. First, I canceled every credit card they had access to, all 6 of them. cards they used like they were their own property, racking up charges for restaurants I never ate at, stores I never shopped in, subscriptions to services I'd never heard of. Then I closed our joint savings account, the account I'd been depositing $500 into every month for their emergencies. Emergencies that always seemed to involve new furniture, weekend getaways, or concert tickets. I changed every password on every bank account. I removed their names from my automatic bill pay. I deleted them as authorized users on everything. By 6 in the morning, I'd severed every financial connection between us. I made myself tea and sat on my back porch watching the sunrise. For the first time in 12 years, I felt light, free, like I'd been holding my breath underwater and finally broke the surface. I knew Marcus would call soon. I knew there'd be panic and accusations and demands, and I was ready. The call came at 7:15. I let it ring 4 times while I finished my tea, savoring the power of making him wait. "Ma, what's happening?" His voice was frantic, edged with embarrassment. The rent check bounced. Our landlord is at the door. Serena is crying. All our cards are declined. What did you do? What did I do? The question almost made me laugh. "Good morning, Marcus," I said calmly. "The accounts are closed because I've decided to stop funding your lifestyle." "What? Are you serious right now?" "Ma, we have bills due today. The internet, the car payment, groceries. We can't just—" "You're 37 years old, Marcus. You have a job. Serena has a job. Figure it out." Silence. Heavy, shocked silence. Is this because of what Serena said? "Ma, she was joking. You know how she jokes around. I know exactly how she jokes, and I know exactly how you responded. You laughed, Marcus. Your wife called me a walking checkbook, and you thought it was funny." "I didn't mean it wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that. For 12 years, I've been your solution to every problem. But 3 nights ago, I learned something important. You don't respect me. You don't value me. You see me as a resource, not a person." I could hear muffled voices in the background. Serena asking what was happening. The landlord probably getting impatient. "Ma, please, just reactivate 1 card. Just for today. We'll talk about this later, I promise." Promises. 12 years of promises that never meant anything. No more promises, Marcus. No more just this once. I'm done. But the landlord is your landlord, not mine. You signed that lease. You deal with it. People are going to find out about this. Everyone's going to know my own mother left me hanging. This is humiliating. And there it was. The real concern. Not our relationship, not what he'd done wrong, just his image, his reputation, what people would think. That's your problem, son. For 12 years, I worried about your comfort, your happiness, your reputation. Now it's time I worried about mine. I hung up before he could respond. My hands shook slightly as I set the phone down, but not from fear, from adrenaline, from the rush of finally standing up for myself. The phone rang again immediately, then again, then a number I didn't recognize, probably Serena calling from her phone. I silenced them all. I poured another cup of tea and sat in my reading chair by the window. The morning sun streamed through the curtains I'd made myself 5 years ago because I couldn't afford new ones after paying for Marcus's dental work. For the first time in over a decade, my home felt truly mine. The peace lasted about 2 hours. At 9:30, I heard a car door slam in my driveway, that aggressive slam that signals anger, not haste. Footsteps on my walkway, pounding on my front door. "Ma, open up! I know you're in there!" Marcus's voice, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I didn't move. I stayed in my reading chair with my book, a mystery novel I'd been trying to finish for 3 months, but never had the mental space for because I was always worried about their next financial crisis. Patricia. Now it was Serena, her voice sharp as broken glass. "Stop acting childish and open this door. We need to talk like adults. Adults." She wanted to talk like adults while screaming at my door like a teenager who'd been grounded. The pounding continued. I heard them trying the doorknob. Thank God I'd had the locks changed last year after they'd started just walking in whenever they wanted, treating my home like an extension of theirs. "This is insane," Serena shrieked. "You made us look like fools in front of our landlord. A 70-year-old woman had to bail us out because you're having some kind of breakdown." Ah, so that's what happened. Serena's mother must have paid their rent. I imagined the scene. Marcus sweating, making excuses, Serena's mother reluctantly pulling out her checkbook while wondering what kind of man can't pay his own rent. The humiliation must have been delicious. "Ma, come on." Marcus again, softer now. "Let's just talk. We can work this out. I know we messed up. Just open the door." I turned a page in my book. A detective was discovering a crucial clue, much more interesting than the drama on my doorstep. The knocking stopped. I heard urgent whispering. They were probably deciding their next move. "Fine," Serena yelled. "Stay in there like a coward. But this isn't over. We're family, whether you like it or not." Family. That word used to mean something to me. Used to make me sacrifice and give and bend until I nearly broke. Now it just sounded like an excuse for bad behavior. I heard their car start and drive away. Finally. I went to my kitchen and made myself lunch. A real lunch, not leftovers or whatever was cheapest. I made salmon with roasted vegetables, poured myself a glass of wine, and ate slowly, tasting every bite. My phone buzzed constantly throughout the afternoon, text messages flooding in. Marcus. "Ma, please call me back. We need to fix this." Serena. "I apologized already." "What more do you want? You're tearing this family apart." A number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Chen, this is Serena's mother, Gloria. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Can we talk? My sister Linda from California." "Patricia, Marcus called me very upset. What's going on? Are you feeling okay? Everyone had a theory. I was sick. I was confused. I was having a breakdown. Nobody considered that I was simply done being used." I turned my phone off and spent the afternoon in my garden. My tomatoes were coming in beautifully. I picked a few, marveling at how something so simple could bring such satisfaction. When had I stopped noticing these small joys? When had my entire world shrunk to worrying about Marcus's bills? That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I took myself to dinner. A nice Italian restaurant downtown, the kind with cloth napkins and candles on every table. The kind Marcus and Serena went to regularly on my dime but never invited me to. I ordered pasta carbonara, a Caesar salad, and tiramisu for dessert. The total came to $53, less than they typically spent on a single round of cocktails during their weekly happy hours. As I ate, I watched couples and families around me. Happy conversations, laughter, connection. Had I ever had that with Marcus and Serena? Real connection that wasn't transactional? I couldn't remember the last time they'd asked about my day, my health, my interests. Every conversation for years had been them talking about their lives, their problems, their wants. I was just the audience, the ATM with ears. When I got home around 8, there was a note taped to my front door. "Ma, we came by again. Please call us. This is serious. We need to know you're okay. Marcus." I crumpled the note and threw it away. They needed to know I was okay. After 12 years of never checking if I was okay unless they wanted something, now they were concerned. I went to bed that night and slept better than I had in months. No anxiety dreams about bounced checks. No waking up at 3 a.m, calculating whether I could afford their latest request. Just deep, peaceful sleep. The next morning, I had an appointment I'd made the day before. My lawyer, Robert Chen, no relation to me despite the shared last name, had an office downtown in one of those old buildings with marble floors and wood paneling that smelled like old books and important decisions. "Mrs. Chen," he greeted me warmly. "It's been a while. What can I help you with today?" I'd had Robert draw up my will 7 years ago, right after Thomas had been gone long enough that I could think clearly about the future. Back then, I'd left everything to Marcus. The house, my savings, my pension benefits, everything. But that was when I still believed I was building a legacy for a son who loved me. "I need to change my will," I said simply. Robert nodded, pulling out a legal pad. "What kind of changes are you thinking?" "Significant ones." I explained the situation, not every detail, but enough. Robert listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. "So your son has been financially dependent on you for over a decade, and recently you discovered they've been—" He paused, choosing words carefully. "Taking your generosity for granted." "They've been using me," I said flatly, "and I'm done." Robert leaned back in his chair. "I see cases like this more often than you'd think, Mrs. Chen. Adult children who never learned financial independence. Parents who enable it out of love until they realize it's not love being returned, just expectation." "Exactly." "So what are you proposing?" I took out the notes I'd made the night before. "I want to divide my estate 3 ways, 40% to charity, specifically organizations that help elderly people who've been financially exploited by family members." Robert raised his eyebrows but nodded approvingly. 30% to my sister Linda. She's never asked me for a dime. Raised 3 kids on a teacher's salary. She deserves it. And the remaining 30%? Goes to Marcus, but with conditions. What kind of conditions? He can only access it if he proves 2 full years of complete financial independence. No bailouts from anyone. No debt beyond a reasonable mortgage. Real proof that he can stand on his own feet. Robert smiled slightly. "That's actually quite generous, given the circumstances, and very wise. You're incentivizing growth rather than just punishing behavior. If he never qualifies, his portion goes to charity as well." We spent the next hour working through the legal details. When I signed the new documents, I felt a weight lift that I didn't even know I'd been carrying. "Mrs. Chen," Robert said as I was leaving, "I want you to know something. What you're doing isn't cruel. It's necessary. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give our children is forcing them to grow up." Those words stayed with me all day. When I got home, there were 2 cars in my driveway, Marcus's and one I didn't recognize, a silver Lexus with California plates. My heart sank. Reinforcements had arrived. Sure enough, when I pulled in, 3 people got out of the cars, Marcus, Serena, and my sister Linda. Linda, who I hadn't seen in person in 3 years. Linda, who Marcus had clearly called to fly out and talk sense into me. "Patty," Linda said, using the nickname only she was allowed. She walked toward me with concern written all over her face. "What's going on? Marcus called me yesterday, terrified something was wrong with you." I looked at Marcus. "You flew your aunt out here? That must have been expensive. Where'd you get the money?" He had the decency to look ashamed. "Linda offered to come." "I paid for my own ticket," Linda said quickly. Marcus just sounded so worried. "Can we please go inside and talk?" I wanted to refuse, wanted to send them all away and protect my newfound peace, but Linda had always been good to me. She deserved an explanation face to face. "Fine. But they," I pointed at Marcus and Serena, "stay outside." "Ma, that's not fair. My house, my rules, take it or leave it." I unlocked my door and Linda followed me inside. I closed the door firmly, leaving Marcus and Serena on the porch. Linda and I sat in my living room, the space where just days ago Serena had mocked me to her sister. The memory still stung, but the pain had transformed into something harder, sharper. "Talk to me, Patty," Linda said gently. "Marcus says you've cut them off completely. No warning, no discussion. He's worried you're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in 12 years, I replied. "Tell me something, Linda." "When was the last time Marcus asked how I was doing? Not because he wanted money, but because he genuinely cared? Linda opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked uncomfortable. Exactly. You can't remember either because it never happens. Patricia, I know he's not perfect, but he's your son. Families support each other. Support goes both ways. Let me ask you something else. How much do you think I've given them over the years? I don't know. Marcus mentioned you helped with rent a few times. $94,000. Linda's face went pale. What? $94,000 over 12 years. I went through all my bank statements. Rent, car payments, vacations, clothes, emergencies that weren't emergencies. $94,000 while I wore the same coat for 8 winters and skipped doctor's appointments because I couldn't afford the co-pays. Oh, Patty. Linda's voice cracked. I had no idea. Nobody did. I was too ashamed to tell anyone. What kind of mother complains about helping her child, right? But 3 nights ago, I heard Serena tell her sister that I exist just to fund their lifestyle. And Marcus laughed. I told her everything. The overheard conversation, the years of being treated like a bank, the constant demands disguised as emergencies, the vacations I financed but wasn't invited to. Linda listened with growing anger. That's financial abuse, Patricia. That's what we'd call it if anyone else was doing this to you. I know that now. What did Marcus say when you confronted him? He said Serena was joking, that I misunderstood, that I'm being cruel. Linda stood up and paced my living room. I need to talk to that boy. Linda, wait. But she was already heading for the door. I followed her outside where Marcus and Serena stood by their car, trying to look pitiful and concerned. Marcus, Linda said, her voice hard in a way I'd never heard before. Your mother just told me everything. $94,000. Marcus's eyes widened. She told you that? It's not like it sounds. Then what's it like? Because it sounds like you've been bleeding your mother dry while she goes without. Aunt Linda, you don't understand our situation, Serena interjected. Living expenses are high, and Patricia always offered. Offered? Or you manipulated her into giving because you knew she couldn't stand to see you struggle? That's not fair, Serena's voice rose. We never forced her to do anything. You made me feel like I had no choice, I said quietly. Every time I hesitated, you made me feel guilty, like I was being selfish, like a bad mother. Marcus's face crumpled. Ma, I never meant to make you feel that way. But you did. For 12 years, you did. And 3 nights ago, when I heard your wife mock me and watched you laugh, I finally understood that this would never stop unless I stopped it. What do you want from us? Serena demanded. You want us to grovel? To beg, we said we're sorry. No, you haven't, Linda pointed out. Neither of you has actually apologized. You've made excuses, blamed Patricia for overreacting, and acted like you're the victims here. We are victims, Serena shrieked. Do you know how embarrassing it was when our rent check bounced? When our cards declined at the grocery store? People were staring at us. Good, I said simply. Maybe embarrassment will teach you what a decade of my generosity couldn't. Marcus stepped forward. Ma, please. We get it. We messed up. We took advantage. What do you want us to do to fix this? I want you to grow up, I said. I want you to live on your own income without anyone's help for 2 full years. I want you to understand what it means to sacrifice and budget and go without. And then, maybe, we can talk about having a real relationship. 2 years? Serena gasped. That's insane. That's life for most people, Linda shot back. Most people don't have a parent funding their lifestyle well into their 30s. Aunt Linda, you don't understand, Marcus began. I understand perfectly. I raised 3 kids on a teacher's salary. No help, no bailouts. And you know what? My kids learned the value of money. They learned to work hard and live within their means. You needed to learn that lesson years ago. I felt such gratitude for Linda in that moment. For years, I'd felt alone in this struggle, like maybe I was being too harsh or too demanding. Having someone else see the situation clearly meant everything. "Ma?" Marcus tried again, his voice breaking. "Are you really going to abandon us like this?" "I'm not abandoning you. I'm releasing you. There's a difference." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I've been enabling you to stay children. Now I'm giving you the chance to become adults." Serena's face twisted with anger. "Fine. You want to play hardball? We can play hardball too. You know there are legal options for families dealing with elderly relatives who aren't making sound financial decisions." The threat hung in the air like poison. Linda's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Are you seriously threatening to have Patricia declared incompetent for protecting her own money? I'm just saying there are options." "Let me stop you right there," I said coldly. "Yesterday, I had a complete psychological evaluation. I have documentation from a licensed psychiatrist confirming I'm of completely sound mind. In fact, she said setting boundaries and protecting my finances shows exceptional mental clarity." Serena's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "So, if you want to pursue that route," I continued, "you'll be wasting money you claim not to have on lawyers who will laugh you out of their offices. A person protecting themselves from financial exploitation isn't incompetent. They're smart." Marcus looked genuinely shocked. "You really did all that? You planned this?" "I protected myself, something I should have done years ago." "Mrs. Chen," Serena said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "I think everyone's emotions are running too high right now. Why don't we all take a few days to cool off and then sit down calmly?" "No," I interrupted. "We're done here. Linda, would you like to stay for dinner? I'm making pot roast." "I'd love to," Linda said warmly. "But Ma," Marcus started. "Go home, Marcus. Go home and figure out how to pay your bills like every other adult in the world." I walked back into my house with Linda, leaving Marcus and Serena standing in my driveway. Through the window, I watched them argue heatedly before finally getting in their car and driving away. "You really okay, Patty?" Linda asked once we were alone. "Better than okay. For the first time in years, I feel like myself again." Linda stayed for 3 days. We talked late into the night, catching up on everything we'd missed in each other's lives. She told me about her kids, her grandchildren, her retirement plans. I realized how much of my own life I'd put on hold while managing Marcus's chaos. On our last evening, we sat on my back porch with wine and watched the sunset. "I'm proud of you, you know," Linda said. "What you're doing takes real courage." "It doesn't feel courageous. It just feels necessary." "Same thing sometimes. You know what I think the hardest part will be?" "What?" "Sticking to your boundaries when he comes back with a real crisis. Because he will. And part of you will want to rescue him like always." She was right. I knew she was right. "I've been thinking about that," I admitted. "How do I know the difference between helping and enabling? You ask yourself one question. Am I solving a problem they created through irresponsibility, or am I helping with something genuinely beyond their control?" It was a good framework, simple but clear. After Linda left, my house felt quieter, but not lonely. I started a routine I'd neglected for years: morning walks, afternoon reading, evening gardening. I joined a book club at the library. I volunteered at a senior center twice a week. I was building a life that didn't revolve around managing someone else's disasters. You are hearing Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you want to hear more stories like this and have any kind of attachment with this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Share your stories too. Your voice matters. Your story matters too. 3 weeks passed with no contact from Marcus or Serena. Part of me worried. Part of me felt relief. Mostly I felt peaceful. Then one Tuesday afternoon, I found Marcus sitting on my front steps when I came home from volunteering. He was alone this time. No Serena, no backup. He looked different, thinner, tired. His clothes weren't the designer brands I'd been funding, just regular jeans and a plain t-shirt. "Hi, Ma," he said quietly. "Marcus. Can we talk? Just for a few minutes?" I almost said no, almost sent him away to protect the peace I'd worked so hard to build. But something in his expression stopped me. He wasn't angry or demanding. He looked humbled. "5 minutes," I said. We sat on my porch steps, not quite touching, but closer than we'd been in weeks. "I got a second job," Marcus said, stocking shelves at night. Serena's working weekends at a retail store. We moved to a cheaper apartment, $800 a month instead of $1,200. Good. It's hard, Ma. Really hard. We're exhausted all the time. We barely see each other. We had to sell Serena's jewelry to make the deposit on the new place. I didn't respond. He needed to say whatever he came to say. "But something happened last week," he continued. "We paid all our bills on time. With our own money, no help from anyone. And I realized I'd never actually done that before. Not once in my adult life. How did it feel? Scary. But also," he paused, searching for words, "also kind of amazing? Like I did this. We did this. Nobody bailed us out. That's what being an adult feels like, Marcus. I know that now. And I'm sorry it took me 37 years and losing my mother's respect to figure it out. Those words, losing my respect, meant he understood. Finally. Ma, I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking you to take me back like nothing happened. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying. We're really trying." "I'm glad to hear that." Serena wanted to come with me today, but I told her I needed to do this alone. She's struggling with all this more than me, honestly. She grew up with everything handed to her. This is a shock to her system. It's a shock she needed. Marcus nodded. "She asked me to tell you she's sorry. Really sorry. She says she was cruel and thoughtless, and she's ashamed of how she treated you." "I appreciate that. But words are easy, Marcus. Actions matter." "I know. That's why I'm not asking for anything except a chance to prove we can change." We sat in silence for a moment. A neighbor walked by with their dog and waved. Normal life continuing around us. "Can I ask you something, Ma?" "What?" "When you heard what Serena said that night, were you surprised? Or had you been feeling this way for a while?" It was a more perceptive question than I expected. "Both," I answered honestly. Part of me always knew something was wrong, but I kept making excuses, telling myself I was just being a good mother. Hearing it said out loud just forced me to stop lying to myself. "I've been thinking about all the things you did for us over the years. The money, yeah, but also all the time and effort. You were always there when we called, always ready to help, and we just took it for granted." "Yes, you did. I don't know how to make that right." "You make it right by becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to be told it's wrong. By building a life based on your own hard work, by treating people, especially people who love you, with respect and gratitude." Marcus wiped his eyes. "I really screwed this up, didn't I?" "Yes, but you can still fix it. It'll take time, but you can." "How much time?" "As much as it takes." "Marcus, I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself while giving you space to grow. If you really change, if you really become independent and responsible, we can rebuild our relationship, but it has to be a different relationship than before." "What do you mean?" "It has to be based on mutual respect, not me giving and you taking. It has to involve you caring about my life as much as I care about yours. It has to be real." He nodded slowly. "I think I understand." "Good." Marcus stood to leave. "Can I ask one more thing?" "What? Are you happy? Like really happy?" I thought about my morning walks, my book club, my volunteer work, my garden full of tomatoes, my bank account that I wasn't afraid to check, my nights of peaceful sleep. Yes, Marcus, I really am. He smiled sadly. Good. You deserve to be. After he left, I went inside and made myself dinner. As I cooked, I reflected on how much had changed. A month ago, I would have caved the moment I saw him on those steps. Would have written a check, fixed his problems, slipped back into the old pattern. But I hadn't. I'd held my boundary while still leaving room for hope. That night, I got a text from Serena, her first direct communication with me since the driveway confrontation. Patricia, Marcus told me about your conversation. I know I hurt you badly and I'm truly sorry. I'm trying to be better. I hope someday you can forgive me. I didn't respond immediately. Let her sit with the uncertainty like I'd sat with so much over the years. The next few months passed quietly. Marcus sent occasional updates, never asking for anything, just sharing. They'd both kept their second jobs. They'd paid off a credit card. Serena had started a budget spreadsheet, small victories that I acknowledged but didn't praise too effusively. They needed to learn to feel proud of themselves without my validation. My own life continued to blossom. I took a watercolor painting class, made new friends, started dating a widower named Frank from my book club. Nothing serious, just dinner once a week and good conversation. Frank had his own experience with adult children who'd expected too much. We could laugh about it now from the other side of setting boundaries. One evening, 6 months after everything changed, I was painting in my sunroom when my phone rang. Marcus. Hi, Ma, is this a good time? Sure. I wanted to tell you something. We've been independent for 6 months now, no help from anyone, and today we started a savings account. Only put in $50 to open it, but it's there. It's ours. Pride swelled in my chest. That's wonderful, Marcus. It made me think about something. For years, I thought money was just there, like it appeared magically when you needed it. I never understood that behind every dollar you gave us was a sacrifice you made. An hour of work, a thing you didn't buy for yourself, a future plan you postponed. No, you didn't understand that. I do now. Every dollar in our savings account represents something we gave up, something we decided we wanted less than security. And it feels good, Ma. It feels like we're building something real. You are. Serena wants to invite you to dinner at our new apartment. She wants to cook for you with our money, our groceries, our effort. Would you come? I considered it. 6 months of demonstrated change. 6 months of them standing on their own feet. I'd like that. Really? Really? But Marcus, I need you to understand something. I'm proud of what you're doing, but this doesn't mean we're back to how things were before. I know. I don't want to go back to how things were. That relationship was broken. I want to build something better. Then let's try. The dinner was the following Sunday. Their apartment was small, a 1-bedroom in a modest complex, nothing like the trendy loft I'd helped them afford before. But it was clean and organized, decorated with thrift store finds and photos. Serena greeted me nervously at the door. She'd changed too. Less makeup, simpler clothes, but somehow she looked more real, more genuine. Patricia, thank you for coming. I know it's not fancy. It's lovely, I said honestly. She'd made lasagna, salad, and garlic bread. Simple food, but made with care. We ate at a small dining table that wobbled slightly. We're saving up for a better table, Marcus said, but it'll take a few months. This table is fine. After dinner, Serena brought out a photo album. I wanted to show you something. I've been documenting our journey. Every week I write down something we managed to pay for ourselves, something we learned, or something we're grateful for. She opened the album. Pages filled with photos of paid bills, groceries, their modest apartment, and handwritten notes. Week 1, paid rent with our own money, terrifying but proud. Week 5, learned to meal plan, saved $80 on groceries. Week 10, Marcus fixed the leaky faucet himself instead of calling a plumber. Small victory. Week 15. Had enough left over to put $20 in savings. Felt like millionaires. I felt tears building as I flipped through the pages. This was more than just financial independence. This was them discovering who they could be. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. Serena looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. "Because you need to know we're not just doing this to win you back. We're doing it because we finally understand we needed to grow up. You forcing us to stand on our own was the hardest, best thing anyone's ever done for us. You hated me for it at first." "We did," she admitted. "We said terrible things about you. Called you cruel, vindictive, crazy. But around month 3, something shifted. We realized we were capable of way more than we thought, and that you'd been preventing us from discovering that by always rescuing us." Marcus added, "You know what the weirdest part is? We're happier now. More stressed sometimes, yeah, but also more alive? Like we're actually living our own lives instead of playing house with your money." The evening ended with cautious hugs and a promise to do this again in a month. As I drove home, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. When it came to Marcus and Serena, hope. Real hope, based on evidence rather than wishful thinking. The following week, I had another appointment with Robert, my lawyer. "I want to adjust my will again," I told him. He pulled out my file. "What kind of adjustments?" "I want to add a provision. If Marcus maintains financial independence for the full 2 years as required, he receives his 30%. But I want to add an additional 10% bonus if he maintains it for 5 years. Robert smiled. "Rewarding sustained growth." "I like it. And I want to set up a small fund, say $5,000, that he can access after 1 year for a true emergency. Not a vacation or a new TV, but medical bills, car repairs, something genuinely unexpected. So you're creating a safety net, but one with clear boundaries." "Exactly. I don't want to be cruel, but I don't want to be a doormat either. Mrs. Chen, this is one of the most thoughtful estate plans I've seen. You're finding the balance between protecting yourself and still showing love." Over the next year and a half, I watched Marcus and Serena continue to grow. There were stumbling blocks, a car repair that wiped out their savings, Serena getting sick and missing a week of work, but they handled each crisis without calling me for rescue. Marcus called me once during that time, his voice strained. "Ma, I need to tell you something. We had a really bad financial week. The car broke down and Serena's hours got cut, and my first instinct was to call you for money." My heart clenched. "But you didn't." "No, I took a deep breath and called my boss instead. Asked for overtime. He gave me extra shifts. We made it through. I'm proud of you." "It was hard, Ma. Really hard. But I did it. And you know what? I'm proud of me too. Those words meant everything." We started having dinner together monthly, sometimes at their place, sometimes at restaurants where they insisted on splitting the bill. Our conversations changed. They asked about my painting class, my volunteer work, my dating life. They cared about my world, not just their own. Serena started calling me just to chat. No agenda, no requests. At first, I waited for the ask that never came. Eventually, I relaxed into these genuine connections. One afternoon, Serena called crying. "Patricia, I need to tell you something, and I don't want anything from you except maybe your ear." "What's wrong?" "I've been in therapy, working through a lot of stuff about money and self-worth and entitlement, and today my therapist helped me realize how much I hurt you, not just with that comment you overheard, but with years of treating you like an ATM. I'm so ashamed." "Serena, no, please let me finish. I grew up with parents who showed love through money. If they bought me things, they loved me. If they said no, they were being mean. I never learned the difference between love and transactions, and I brought that sickness into our family and infected Marcus with it. It takes courage to recognize that." I just wanted you to know that I'm working on it, on being better, on understanding what real love looks like. After we hung up, I sat in my garden and cried. Happy tears this time. Healing tears. 22 months after I cut them off, Marcus and Serena reached their 2-year mark of complete financial independence. They'd done it. Through 2 jobs each, through sacrifice and budget spreadsheets and learning to fix things themselves, they'd proven they could stand on their own. I invited them over for a celebration dinner. "So," Marcus said as we ate the pot roast I'd made, "we hit 2 years. Does this mean we're back in your will?" I laughed. "Yes, your 30% is secure." "And if we keep going?" Serena asked. "Keep being responsible?" "Then in 3 more years, there's a bonus. 10% more if you maintain this independence." They looked at each other with identical expressions of determination. "We're going to earn that bonus," Marcus said. "Not because of the money, but because we want to prove we're not those people anymore. You already have proven that. The bonus is just acknowledgement." As they left that night, Marcus hugged me tight. "Thank you, Ma, for loving me enough to let me fail, for being strong enough to say no, for giving me the chance to become someone worth being. You were always worth being, Marcus. You just needed to discover it." After they left, I stood on my porch and looked up at the stars. 2 years ago, I was a woman who'd lost herself in enabling, a woman who measured her worth by how much she could give away. Now, I was a woman who painted and volunteered and dated, a woman with boundaries and self-respect, a woman who'd saved not just her money, but her dignity and her relationship with her son. It hadn't been easy. There were moments I'd wanted to cave, to write that check, to fall back into the comfortable pattern of fixing their problems, but I'd held strong. And in doing so, I'd given all of us a gift, the gift of authentic relationship, of real growth, of discovering who we could be when we stopped playing our old broken roles. My phone buzzed, a text from my book club friend Margaret. "Frank is asking if you're coming to the museum exhibit Saturday." "I think he's smitten." I smiled and typed back, "Tell him I'll be there." Life was good. Not perfect, it never would be, but good. And more importantly, it was mine. Truly, fully mine. I'd spent 71 years learning to put others first. It only took me 2 years to learn that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is put yourself first. And that lesson, that was worth more than $94,000. Worth more than any amount of money. It was worth everything. You are hearing Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you want to hear more stories like this and have any kind of attachment with this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Share your stories, too. Your voice matters. Your story matters, too. If you enjoyed my story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can write more stories like this. Thanks a lot in advance. What about you? What would you do in this person's shoes? I'd really love to hear your thoughts. So drop them in the comments. I'm always curious to know what you think. Oh, and let me know where you've heard this story. If you want to hear more life stories like this, like the video and subscribe to my channel. There are many more waiting for you. Big hugs and see you next time.